Welcome back, everybody. It's another episode of Embracing Life in Issaquah. I'm your co-host, Chris Angel, and I'm here with your host, Rebecca Kuno-Scott. Hello, Rebecca.
Hey, Chris. Hi, everybody.
I like that shirt today. That's good color right there. That feels like spring to me.
I am manifesting spring.
I am so ready for spring. Let's bring it on.
Me both.
Well, we're talking. Listen, I'm super excited for this conversation today because we're talking about something that affects a lot of people, probably more than some would care to admit. And that is the conversation of depression. I mean, or we could lighten it in the mood on that if we wanted and say feeling blue.
I think both are good.
Both is good.
Degrees, yes.
Yeah. You could even take this out into to the civilians of the world that don't have a clinically defined depression, but you could say, like, I think a lot of us can get frustrated, angry, unhappy. Mm-hmm. And so this is a lot of the world. And so we're gonna talk about that today. And I want to make sure that everybody listening knows that we're speaking about this from a place that we're being super transparent. So, you know, go easy on us for that. We're being super transparent. But I also want to say, like, when you can take something in life that is hard, if all you do is experience the hardness of it, then we end up getting stuck. And I think a lot of people in pain, in depression, in unhappiness can isolate. I know that I have isolated in my own unhappiness. And then that becomes a massive burden to bear. But if you can find a way to rise above the burden of it, if you can take the pain and redeem it for something good in the world by helping others, by talking about it. I think when we can talk about it and know that we're not alone, mm-hmm. and talk even through ways that we cope with it, it actually helps others rise. And so the whole purpose that Rebecca and I are talking about this today is simply to help others feel not alone and to help them rise in the conversation of being unhappy or being depressed. So did I set that up okay? Is that?
Yeah, I think that's a great segue. I think a good soundbite to encapsulate what you talked about is the idea of progress, not perfection, right?
Yeah.
And that's one of my favorite catchphrases that I use when I get stuck. And it doesn't matter if I'm getting stuck in a project that I'm actually engaged in and excited about, or if it's getting stuck with feeling blue or downright being depressed, right?
Yeah.
To give you guys all a little bit of background, feeling either blue or depressed or anything kind of in between on that spectrum,
right. Mm-hmm.
is something I've really dealt with my whole life, and not just my adult life, but really, truly my first memories of, now that I know what depression is, go back to preschool, kindergarten.
Wow.
You know?
Wow.
And so an attribute and a liability that I have is I feel things very intensely. And that can absolutely be a gift.
Right.
And it also can be a burden. Because when I am happy and excited about that, I have been told that that just exudes from me, that it creates energy for those around me. It's very uplifting. The flip side of that is that when I'm disappointed or feel blue or down about something, it conversely really suck the air out of the room, you know, and make others feel blue. And so what I've learned over the years, because I've gone through different issues with this, of at times just being downright angry, where I'll be on a really good spectrum where everything, pardon me, seems to be going really well. And then all of a sudden, for no reason, or what feels like no reason, out of the blue, I start feeling down again. And then I get angry and I'm like,
right,
this again.
Totally. Right. Totally that.
You know, and it's like, I thought I kicked this, and why do I have to keep dealing with this? And so what I've learned is this feeling and this connecting to kind of the shadows is something that's just a part of who I am.
Mm.
And I can rage against it,
Mm.
or I can learn to see it for what it is.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can get to the point where I can honestly call it a gift.
Right. Right. Yeah.
I can embrace it for what it is,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And learn that and embrace the concept of progress, not perfection. Perfection in my mind would be never ever feeling blue or depressed ever again.
Right. That's an impossible expectation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Totally impossible expectation.
Right.
So what does progress look like? Well, a great example of progress, our weather as of late has been really harsh and not a lot of sunshine, and that affects a lot of people, not just me.
Right.
And at the time that we're doing this recording, it's kind of been midwinter break. I know this is going to air a little bit, a few weeks from now, but it's been midwinter break. And we used to have a history as a family going somewhere for midwinter break. And that was with my first family. And Emily and I continued that tradition after my first husband passed away. And then when I got remarried, that tradition changed because, again, the joys of a blended family. My lovely stepdaughter, her school district doesn't do midwinter break the way that Issaquah School District does midwinter break. And for that reason, it's not a time that we have together. And so the past couple of years, we haven't gone somewhere. And it's always been a really good escape for me to go somewhere and get sunshine during this time.
Yeah.
That's a lot of detail of saying that over this past week and after digging out from Snowmageddon, there hasn't been a lot of sunshine. There's been a lot of being housebound. And then now this past week, seeing all my friends in Facebook, social network, everybody posting about these great trips that they're on. Right. And so this past week emotionally has been a little hard because I felt stuck.
Yeah.
And so I led with the saying, okay, how is progress, not perfection, an example? Well, to be perfectly honest, this morning, I was struggling a little bit. And nothing super crazy, nothing super heavy, but kind of having dealt with this for so long, I can kind of tell where I can be at a fork in the road with how I'm feeling. And I can choose one path that would then lead me to the shadows and lead me to darkness, or I can choose another path that might be a longer path, but it will keep me moving towards light and productivity and just a lighter sense of being, right?
Yep.
And sometimes it can be super simple. And for this morning, it was super simple. I'm blessed that my mom is one of my best friends, and I'm blessed that she lives a few blocks from me. So I called her up this morning and I said, hey, Mom, I really could just use your energy in the house. Do you have a computer project or a book that you could read? And could you just come over and hang out at my house while I'm kind of doing my thing and you can be doing your thing? And just having your energy around could help.
Smart.
Totally did the trick. And it changed that fork in the road. And I chose the fork in the road of surrounding myself by somebody else's energy helped perpetuate my energy moving forward versus my energy going to a dark place.
Right. In the past, did you not know? I'm sorry. In the past, did you not notice? Like now, you can notice the fork in the road. But in the past, could you not notice the fork in the road, and it was just like a trigger, like something happened, and then it just went. You just went down that path. Like how was it different then versus now?
Great question. I think because I have dealt with this for so long, to varying degrees, I have become much more self-aware to where now I can start to see that fork in the road. And as I continue to gain acceptance of that this is just something that I am prone to, I'm able to see that fork in the road a lot sooner
Right.
than I have in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And so it becomes easier to take the fork that leads to light versus darkness.
Right. Right. Yep.
But it takes effort. Like there can sometimes be something seductive about the shadows.
Mm. That's interesting. Talk more about that. What do you mean? Like, what's seductive about the shadows?
Well, I have just, with dealing with so much loss, and I've talked to several people that I have essentially, because of so much loss of losing a spouse and so many family members in a short period of time, that that essentially I've dealt with trauma, right? It's not just loss. It's kind of loss compounded, uncompounded.
Yeah.
And so because of that trauma, our brains actually kind of get rewired to where you can want to stay in the trauma, because our brains falsely tell us that if we keep reliving the trauma, that somehow we can change the outcome, but we can't. It's a falsehood that our brains tell us. And so that's why there can be something seductive about the shadows, because our brain thinks that if we stay in trauma, that somehow we can fix it if we stay there, but we can't.
Right.
So it takes conscious choice. It takes progress, not perfection, to move towards light. And so
it's really good. I love that. I think because it feels constructive. Like I like it because it feels like there is a choice. I think so. Like the times that I've been unhappy, I feel like I just am stuck with what I have. I'm like, this is what it is. And it feels a little bit like a prison. Like I'm stuck. Like if I want to have a certain kind of income, a certain kind of business, a certain kind of relationship, then I just have to bear it. I just have to keep doing what I'm doing, even though it's not going the way I want. And then I resist and I'm resenting. And so I feel like I'm stuck with what I have. And I'm actually I'm trying to think in light of what you're saying, like if I was self-aware enough to know what the warning signs were of me starting to feel like I was stuck with something, like I might have a shorter fuse, I might get angry quicker. I might not just be happy. I might not smile as much. I'm just trying to think of like certain indications,
For me, it manifests as a physical feeling of heaviness. And so there's one thing that I want people to be clear on. Feeling blue or feeling depressed, you don't choose whether or not. It's a very real thing. We don't have control over that. And I, no way, shape, or form do I want to say that we have it. So like it comes. I can't control whether that feeling comes or not.
Right.
That I don't have control over. What I have control over is once I have that feeling, what do I do next? Right? Because that feeling's going to come whether if I had a choice of having that feeling or not, I'd never choose to have that feeling, right?
Right.
And that feeling's very real, and that's something that happens to us, right?
Right.
That we don't control.
Right.
What we control is how do we respond to those feelings? How do we respond to those thoughts? And so this morning's example, I felt this, and I felt this heaviness, and I was like, okay, I could procrastinate and go crawl back into bed and sip my coffee from the comfort of my bed and snuggle down and not really have a very productive morning. That was a choice I could make. Based on how I was feeling, that was the choice I kind of wanted to make. That I was
right. Yeah.
And I knew that making that choice would not set my day up for the rest of what I wanted to do. So I said, let me reach out to somebody. So I reached out to my mom. Mm-hmm. Now, reaching out to my mom, she was able to come over. And initially, actually, she wasn't. We just had a phone conversation that initially started me in the right direction. And then she actually ended up being able to come over, which helped perpetuate going in the right direction. But the thing is I did something to take action to choose light over shadow.
Right.
What I chose may or may not have worked, right? So that's progress, not perfection, right?
Right. Yep.
That may or may not have been the trick that I needed. In this instance today, it was. And it set me down a path to make my day bright and productive, to where I feel like I'm contributing to those I love in the world around me. Going back to a podcast you did on another thing that you do, the idea of I feel like I have a sense of purpose today, right? Because I chose that. Whereas choosing to go crawl back into bed, that would just perpetuate the feeling of not having purpose.
Right. Good point.
So the point is, it's just to try things that are going to connect you to others. And this is after lots of time, a lifetime of working on this. So this is not some overnight little thing. It's not the be all end all, but it's about progress, not perfection, and embracing those feelings. And instead of railing against them,
right.
Instead of beating myself up for having them, saying, okay, I wouldn't really choose this, and this is how I'm feeling. What am I going to do about it? How am I going to respond to it?
Right. Yeah.
And it can be some of the simplest little things. You know, I spent a little extra time on my hair today. Spent a little extra time on my makeup today. Because getting myself put together helps perpetuate me to being present in the world and showing up for the world.
Right.
Versus a messy bun and staying in PJs.
Right. I love in the background of that, I hear, like you could, for outward looking in, it could look the same. Like two people have the same shadowy thoughts, and they both decide to do their hair and take a little extra time, but one's doing it out of obligation, and this is what I do, and I just got to grind it out, and I'm just going to keep pushing forward. And the other one does it from a place of self-love and taking care of, paying attention to the energy of it, so that it's restoring and not just more tasks. I think more tasks on top of feeling bad compound into more feeling bad.
That's often the case for me.
Yeah. But doing more tasks, if there are things that like are doing hair because it feels good, or choosing whatever it is because that would actually fill my tank and increase my energy, and versus taking my energy down, is what I hear in the background of that. And just making those kinds of choices, and they could be really small choices, I would imagine, like just like doing your hair.
Yeah.
Is a little thing that you could do in a day, but if it adds to your energy, that's really good.
Yeah.
I just feel like this is such an important conversation, because I feel like a lot of people, especially maybe Western, in America, maybe, I feel like we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to produce and to go and to have it all together. And, you know, in this day and age of Instagram and Facebook, and everybody else's life looks so good, and so I've got to see if my life can look good. It's just a lot of pressure, you know? Definitely. Yeah. Well, how would you leave people with, if we thought about like a way for, let me ask this, is there a way for us to in the middle of having these feelings, be empowered? Can we be empowered in the middle of this, or not?
Sometimes you can, and sometimes you're not going to be able to find feeling empowered. But the sun is going to set and the sun is going to rise, and it's going to be another day and another opportunity to shift perspective. I've talked about this before in some other videos. But another small thing I do when I'm starting to see these warning signs is I will be very intentional about writing down gratitudes. For me, I can't just think the gratitudes. I need to write them down. And I actually have a gratitude journal. And it's actually something I started with my husband too, of where the intent was to, before we went to bed at night, to tell each other 3 things we were grateful for.
Yeah.
We both can fall asleep fast, so it's turned into waking up in the morning and telling each other 3 things that we're grateful for.
Nice.
But I kind of have given us a little bit of a challenge, like a 30-day challenge of let's do this and see if this kind of changes the energy around our family and so on and so forth. And I'm seeing some shifts just there, and that's when I'm texting him mine. So in that sense, I'm writing it down, but I also separately keep a gratitude journal. So that's another little thing for anybody out there it takes time, and consistency is important, but that's another thing. If you're starting to just feel a little off, a little punky, a little anxious, a little overwhelmed, start with simple gratitudes. And coming from gratitude actually helps rewire your brain. So at one point, I want to bring in a guest, Lisa Hamill, who is a friend of mine who has done a lot of work and research about and knows so much more about the brain than I do, and finding joy and how to recover from trauma and kind of rewire your brain.
That'd be amazing. Yeah. That'd be amazing. Here's what I love about this. I mean, the show is called Embracing Life in Issaquah. And I feel like to try to go through the motions of embracing life and not really acknowledge any pain under the surface, I think kind of just perpetuates. It is a form of resisting. And when I think you resist it, it keeps it in existence. And so first of all, thank you for just being so transparent. How many people go on their show and talk about depression? That's not, unless it's Dr. Phil or Oprah. Thank you for being the next Oprah, the Oprah of Issaquah. Rebecca's the Oprah of Issaquah. I just think that's a massive contribution. It's a big service to just say, like, this is what's real and let's deal with it. Let's not like skirt around it. Let's just deal with what's real so we can be empowered in it sometimes. Right. And let's just be real. Cause I think there's an awakening in humanity. I think people are waking up to wanting things to be authentic and transparent and real. And I think we're tired of all of the fakeness and nicety and facade of it all. So for you to come out and just share your experience with depression and how you've managed it and not just managed it, but in some ways overcome it. Like you found ways to find a higher frequency when you're at that fork in the road. And I think that's part of what helps the rest of us rise. So anyway, thank you. Thank you for sharing that today. It's awesome.
Thank you.
If people want to connect with you, maybe they connect with the story and they want to ask questions or they have their own thoughts on it. Or maybe, look, it's by the time this airs, it's spring and people start thinking about buying and selling houses in the spring. If people want to reach out to you for real estate related things, like how do people connect with you?
For right now, just through the Facebook Embracing Life in Issaquah, post comments, check in with me there, message me there, or you can always reach me by phone at 425-395-4573.
Thanks, Rebecca. Thanks for putting the show on and bringing the community together around these important topics. So until next time, take care.
Thanks. Bye, Chris. Bye, everybody.